In the quiet town of Maplewood, the disappearance of 16-year-old Emily Turner left a scar that lingered for years. It was an ordinary Wednesday afternoon in May when Emily walked home from school, her backpack slung over one shoulder and a smile on her face. Little did her family know this would be the last time they would see her. Hours turned into days, and days turned into weeks, as frantic searches and countless pleas for information yielded nothing. The community rallied, posters adorned every lamppost, and candlelight vigils filled the town square, yet Emily remained missing, swallowed by the shadows of uncertainty. For her mother, Susan Turner, the years that followed were a haunting blend of despair and unwavering hope. Each morning she would rise, clutching a faded photograph of her daughter, as if it were a lifeline. Susan would often find herself wandering the familiar route Emily used to take, replaying the moments leading up to her disappearance, grappling with the gut-wrenching questions that plagued her. What had happened to her beloved daughter? Why had she vanished without a trace? With each passing year, the pain grew heavier, the silence more suffocating. Though the authorities had labeled the case as cold, Susan refused to let go, clinging to the hope that one day the truth would surface. Then, after nearly a decade of silence, everything changed. It was a seemingly innocuous event, a local high school dance competition filmed and shared widely on social media. A video, capturing the vibrant energy of the evening, would unravel the tightly wound threads of Emily's disappearance. In the background of one seemingly innocent performance, a flicker of familiarity caught Susan's eye. There, among the dancers, was a figure who bore an uncanny resemblance to her daughter. The discovery sent shockwaves through Susan's heart, igniting a spark of hope long thought extinguished. As the video began to spread through the community, Susan's determination reignited. She reached out to the local authorities only to be met with skepticism. "It's been years, Susan," they told her. "It's probably just a coincidence." But Susan knew better. She had spent countless nights analyzing every detail, every lead. This was not just a coincidence, this was a potential breakthrough. Driven by a mother's love and fueled by an unrelenting desire for answers, she took it upon herself to investigate the lead. As she began to dig deeper, Susan discovered a world that had long been hidden beneath the surface of Maplewood, a world where secrets festered and lives intertwined in ways that defied explanation. What she unearthed would not only test her resolve, but would also challenge everything she thought she knew about her daughter, her community, and the very nature of truth itself. Who was the mysterious dancer? How did they connect to Emily's disappearance? And why did the authorities continue to turn a blind eye? Each question was a thread that, when pulled, threatened to unravel a complex tapestry of deception and dark secrets. As she pieced together the fragments of information, Susan discovered a network of individuals who had been living double lives, hidden behind facades that masked their true intentions. The further she delved, the more she realized that Emily's disappearance was not a simple case of a girl lost, but rather a tangled web of betrayal and conspiracy. The investigation would lead her to unexpected places, unmasking not only hidden aspects of Emily's life, but also revealing those who had sought to protect themselves at the expense of her daughter. The deeper she went, the more perilous the journey became, as Susan found herself confronting not only the ghosts of the past, but also the very real dangers of those who wanted the truth to remain buried. With each revelation, Susan's resolve solidified. She would not be silenced. She would not allow the fear of confrontation to dictate her actions. Emily deserved justice, and Susan was determined to bring the truth to light, no matter the cost. As the investigation unfolded, it became evident that the truth was not a straightforward path. The further she ventured into the mystery, the more twisted and complex the narrative became, leading her down a road lined with startling secrets that would shake Maplewood to its core. In this 10-part series, we will follow Susan Turner's relentless quest for answers. Each episode will peel back the layers of mystery surrounding Emily's disappearance, revealing the shocking discoveries that lay in wait and the harrowing journey of a mother who refused to give up. Join us as we delve into the depths of this chilling case, one that started with a simple walk home from school and spiraled into a dark enigma, culminating in a dance video that could finally unveil the truth. The journey will be fraught with tension, revelations, and the hard-earned understanding that sometimes the truth is not what we expect, but it is always worth fighting for. Stay with us as we begin this gripping tale, where every shadow hides a secret, and every clue could lead to the answers Susan has been seeking for nearly a decade. The mystery of Emily Turner is far from over. It has only just begun. As Susan delved deeper into the investigation, she found herself retracing Emily's last steps, revisiting the familiar streets that had once been a part of her daughter's everyday life. Each corner brought back memories of laughter, innocence, and a child full of dreams. But with each step, the weight of unanswered questions pressed heavier upon her heart. Armed with the newfound dance video, Susan meticulously analyzed every frame, searching for clues that might have eluded her previously. The vibrant images of teenagers dancing, while seemingly innocent, now held a duality that Susan could not ignore. The rhythm of their movements seemed to pulse with hidden truths, and she became obsessed with identifying every face, every detail. Each second of the video felt like a breadcrumb leading her further into a labyrinth of possibilities. She reached out to the friends of Emily's who had been present in the video, hoping to uncover what they knew and whether they had seen Emily that day. Some were eager to talk, recalling joyous moments, while others were more reticent, their eyes darting away from Susan's probing gaze, hinting at uncomfortable memories they wished to forget. Susan felt a growing unease as she sensed reluctance among the youth, a fear that lingered just beneath the surface. She sensed they were hiding something, but what? The authorities had long since dismissed Emily's case, considering it a tragic loss, but Susan knew better. She pressed on, determined to find the truth that others seemed content to leave buried. Through social media, she uncovered a network of students who had attended a nearby school, all connected by a web of friendships and secrets. Susan began reaching out to them one by one, but the responses varied. Some offered warm condolences, while others gave vague answers, their tones shifting when Emily's name was mentioned. And then, one night, as she sat alone in her dimly lit living room, a message popped up on her screen. A young man named Jason claimed to have information about the dance video. His words were hesitant, yet filled with urgency. He wanted to meet in person. As she prepared for their meeting, a whirlwind of emotions washed over her. Was this the break she had been waiting for, or could it be yet another dead end in her pursuit of the truth? The next day, Susan arrived at the agreed-upon location, a local park shrouded in the golden hues of autumn. With her heart racing, she scanned the area until her eyes landed on a young man leaning against a swing set, his face partially obscured by the shadows of the trees. Jason greeted her with a nervous smile, but as they exchanged pleasantries, Susan could sense a tension in his demeanor. He glanced around as if he feared being watched. "I know things about that video," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Things that might connect to Emily." Susan's heart skipped a beat. She leaned in closer, every instinct screaming that this moment could change everything. But before he could reveal more, a sudden commotion erupted nearby, drawing their attention. A group of teenagers erupted in laughter, their voices rising in a cacophony that filled the air. Jason's expression shifted, a flicker of anxiety crossing his face. "I can't talk here," he urged, glancing over his shoulder. "Meet me tonight. The old skate park. I'll tell you everything." Susan's mind raced. Why the secrecy? What did he know that made him so fearful? A sense of foreboding settled over her as she nodded in agreement, aware that she was on the brink of a revelation that could either illuminate the truth or plunge her deeper into darkness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Susan felt a chill in the air, a premonition that the night could hold more than just answers. It could lead her to the heart of the mystery, a truth shrouded in shadows, waiting to be uncovered. As night fell, the old skate park loomed ahead, its once vibrant colors faded and overrun by weeds. The sound of crickets filled the air, mixing with the distant hum of traffic. Susan arrived early, her heart pounding in her chest, a mixture of dread and anticipation swirling within her. The faint glow of a streetlight cast long shadows, creating an eerie atmosphere that heightened her senses. Minutes felt like hours as she waited. Just as she began to doubt his arrival, Jason appeared from the darkness, his silhouette outlined against the faint light. His expression was serious, the fear that had flashed across his face earlier now replaced with a determined resolve. "I'm glad you came," he said, urgency lacing his tone. "We don't have much time." Susan nodded, her throat dry. "What do you know about the video?" Jason glanced around, ensuring they were alone, before he took a breath. "There's more footage." "Footage that wasn't released. I saw it months ago. It's disturbing." "What do you mean?" Susan pressed, leaning in closer, desperate for clarity. "There's a moment, right before Emily walks away from the camera. You can see someone in the background, someone who shouldn't be there." Her heart sank. "Who?" "I don't know, but I have a feeling they were following her." A wave of nausea washed over Susan. Had Emily been watched that day? "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" "I didn't think it mattered until I saw that dance video. But now, I can't shake the feeling it's all connected." Susan felt a knot tightening in her stomach. Connected how? "Something about that day, the timing, the person I saw. It's like they were waiting for her. I think they've been watching her for longer than we realized." With each word, a chilling dread crept into her thoughts. "What do we do now?" Jason stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We have to find that footage. It's the only way to figure out who this person is. Maybe it will lead us to the truth." Just then, a noise from the nearby bushes made them both jump. Susan's heart raced as she scanned the darkness, instinct screaming that they were not alone. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Jason nodded, his eyes wide. "We need to go." But before they could move, a figure emerged from the shadows, a smirk playing on their lips. It was someone Susan recognized, a face from her past, someone who had been present in Emily's life. "Looking for something?" the figure taunted, the moonlight catching their eyes. Everything came to a halt. Susan's mind raced as she realized the implications of this encounter. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to take shape, but the truth was still cloaked in uncertainty and danger. What did this person know? What were they hiding? The confrontation was just beginning, and the answers she sought may come at a cost far greater than she ever anticipated. As the figure stepped forward, a chilling recognition swept through Susan. It was Rachel, a former friend of Emily's, someone who had always seemed harmless, but whose presence now felt foreboding. "What do you want, Rachel?" Susan managed to ask, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions brewing inside her. "Oh, come on, Susan, you know what this is about," Rachel replied, her smirk widening. "You're digging into places you shouldn't be. It's not safe." Jason instinctively moved closer to Susan, his protective instincts flaring. "We're just trying to find out what happened to Emily," he said, his voice firm yet laced with apprehension. Rachel shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "People disappear for a reason. Maybe you should let it go." But Susan wasn't ready to back down. "You were there, Rachel. You were with her the last time anyone saw her. You know something." Rachel's demeanor shifted slightly, the playful mask slipping just enough for Susan to catch a glimpse of something darker beneath. "You really think you can handle the truth?" she asked, her tone suddenly serious. "It's not as simple as you think." Before Susan could respond, Rachel turned, glancing over her shoulder as if checking for unseen eyes, then leaned in closer. "You want the footage? You might want to think carefully about what you're asking for. Some things are better left buried." With that, Rachel melted back into the shadows, leaving behind a silence that felt heavy with unspoken threats. Susan and Jason exchanged a look, one filled with a mix of determination and dread. Rachel's warning echoed in Susan's mind, her gut telling her that they were onto something significant. Days passed as they followed leads from the dance video, each connection revealing a web of friendships and rivalries from Emily's life that Susan had long forgotten. Yet, with each piece of information, the sense of urgency grew. Time was slipping away, and the darkness surrounding Emily's disappearance seemed to loom ever closer. Then, late one night, while combing through social media pages and old photos, Susan stumbled upon a cryptic post. It was a video from a party Emily attended shortly before her disappearance. The caption read, "Sometimes the dance floor reveals more than just moves." Her heart raced. Could this be the key to understanding Rachel's ominous warning? The video showed Emily laughing, dancing, carefree, but there was something else, a figure lurking at the edge of the frame, watching, waiting. Susan's breath caught in her throat as she zoomed in on the figure. It was obscured but unmistakably familiar. She felt a wave of nausea wash over her. It was someone she had seen before, someone connected to Rachel. With newfound determination, Susan knew they had to confront Rachel again. This time, they would demand answers. They had to follow this lead, no matter how dangerous it might prove to be. But as Susan and Jason prepared for what lay ahead, a deep sense of foreboding settled over them. The truth was drawing closer, but so was the shadow of the past, and they could no longer ignore the fact that uncovering it could lead them into peril far beyond their expectations. As Susan and Jason approached Rachel's apartment, they were filled with a mix of hope and dread. The memory of Emily was a driving force, but the looming threat of the unknown sent shivers down their spines. They knocked on the door, and after what felt like an eternity, Rachel answered, her expression shifting from surprise to guarded apprehension. "Why are you here?" Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We found something," Susan replied, her tone steady despite the tremor in her hands. "A video from the night Emily disappeared. We saw someone in the background, someone you know." Rachel's eyes widened, and for a fleeting moment, Susan thought she saw fear etched across her face. "I don't know what you're talking about," Rachel said, quickly dismissing their claim. But Susan pressed on, her determination fueled by years of unanswered questions. "Emily was in danger, Rachel. We need you to be honest. Who was that person?" Rachel hesitated, her gaze shifting to the floor, as if weighing the consequences of her next words. "You don't understand. It's not that simple. He's connected to things you wouldn't believe." The air grew thick with tension. Rachel's cryptic response hung in the air like a dark cloud. Susan's heart raced as she realized they were on the brink of something monumental. What things? What did he want with Emily? With a reluctant sigh, Rachel finally spoke, her voice trembling. He wasn't just watching her, he was part of something much bigger, a group, a dangerous group that involved people we thought were safe. As Rachel revealed the shadows that lurked beneath the surface of their seemingly peaceful community, Susan's mind raced. Could this group have orchestrated Emily's disappearance? Was it possible that the people they trusted were hiding secrets far darker than they had ever imagined? Rachel detailed a series of events that led to Emily's entanglement with this group, a web of deceit and manipulation that ensnared not just Emily, but others too. Susan struggled to absorb the implications. "How do you know all of this?" she pressed, desperate for clarity. "Because I was there," Rachel admitted, her voice breaking. "I was part of it before I realized the danger. When I tried to get away, they threatened me. I thought I could protect Emily by staying away, but it seems I only put her in more danger." The revelation struck Susan like a thunderbolt. The very person they had turned to for answers had once been a part of the dark world that had consumed Emily. The realization spun Susan into a vortex of anger and betrayal. "Why didn't you tell us before?" Jason interjected, frustration seeping into his voice. "We could have saved her." "It wasn't safe," Rachel shot back, her voice rising. "I thought if I remained silent, they would leave me alone. But it seems that wasn't enough." This shocking twist left Susan reeling. Emily's disappearance was not just the result of a random act, but rather an intricate tapestry woven with betrayal and danger. The question loomed larger than ever. Who else was involved, and how far would they go to keep their secrets hidden? With Rachel's confession, the investigation took a darker turn. Susan realized they were no longer just seeking answers. They were now navigating a minefield of threats that could put them all at risk. As Susan and Jason left Rachel's apartment, a chilling thought gripped them both. The deeper they dug, the closer they drew to a truth that could shatter everything they thought they knew about their lives and the people they loved. But there was no turning back now. They had to press on, knowing that the next steps could uncover a reality more horrifying than they ever imagined. The truth was waiting in the shadows, and it was time to confront the darkness head-on. As Susan and Jason ventured back into the cold night, their minds were racing with what they had just learned. Rachel's chilling admission felt like a key that unlocked a door to a hidden world, one filled with deception and fear. They had to know more, but they also understood that the truth they were chasing could come at a grave cost. Days passed as they sifted through old records, messages and contacts, desperately trying to piece together the fragments of Emily's last days. Each revelation seemed to deepen the mystery. Susan became consumed by the idea that Emily had been more than just a victim. She had been part of something larger, something that bound her to the very people they trusted. Their next breakthrough came unexpectedly, in the form of an anonymous tip received through a social media account dedicated to unsolved cases. The message contained a link to a dance video posted online, featuring a group of teenagers at a party. As Susan and Jason watched, their hearts raced. Among the crowd, dancing with abandon, was a girl who looked strikingly like Emily. The video was time-stamped just days before Emily's disappearance. Susan's heart sank as she noticed the familiar blue jacket the girl wore, one that Emily had been seen in just before she vanished. With renewed urgency, they analyzed the footage, desperately looking for clues hidden in the background, faces, locations, anything that could lead them closer to the truth. Despite their excitement, Susan felt a growing sense of dread. Who were these people in the video? Did they know something? As they tried to track down the party's location, they encountered closed doors at every turn. Friends who had been at the party were suddenly unresponsive, and others acted nervous when approached. They soon learned that many in their small community had their own reasons to keep quiet. It was becoming clear that Emily's disappearance was a secret not easily unraveled. The closer they got to uncovering the truth, the more shadows seemed to loom around them. Whispers of a protective silence spread through town, making Susan question who she could trust. With their investigation stalling, Susan decided they needed to confront Rachel once more. She hoped that the sight of the video would spark something in Rachel. A memory, a confession, a hint of clarity. But as they approached Rachel's apartment, a heavy tension hung in the air. With every step, the weight of the past bore down on Susan. She knew that the truth was close, but it felt like a dangerous game. As she and Jason exchanged glances, they both understood that this confrontation could either bring them closer to solving the mystery or plunge them deeper into a treacherous web of lies. As they knocked on Rachel's door, Susan felt a surge of anxiety. The revelation they sought was just beyond the threshold, but what they would uncover could change everything. Would Rachel finally reveal the full extent of what she knew, or would the shadows envelop them once again, keeping Emily's truth hidden? The answer was just a heartbeat away. As the door creaked open, Rachel stood before them, her expression shifting from surprise to guarded apprehension. Susan took a deep breath, steeling herself against the flood of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. "Rachel," Susan began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We need to talk. We found something that might help us understand what happened to Emily." Rachel's eyes flickered to the floor, her posture tightening as if bracing for impact. The silence that followed felt heavy and oppressive. Finally, Rachel stepped aside, allowing Susan and Jason to enter the dimly lit apartment, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy of the dance video that had sparked this confrontation. Once inside, Susan wasted no time. She pulled out her phone, navigating to the clip of Emily dancing, the one that had ignited their renewed hope. "Look at this," she urged, holding the phone out for Rachel to see. Rachel's gaze fixated on the screen, her face a mask of turmoil. As the video played, Susan observed subtle changes in Rachel's demeanor, a twitch of her lips, a flicker of recognition. Just as Susan began to feel a glimmer of hope, Rachel abruptly turned away, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't do this," she murmured, the walls of her emotional fortress beginning to crack. "Rachel, please," Jason implored, stepping closer. "We know you were with Emily that day. Anything you can tell us could help." Rachel's shoulders slumped, and for a moment it seemed as though she might divulge everything. But then she steeled herself once more, her walls slamming back into place. "I don't know what you think you saw," she replied, her voice cold. "I didn't see anything. I didn't know anything." Frustration coursed through Susan. The conflicting emotions and the obvious denial were maddening. "You can't be serious," Susan pressed, desperation creeping into her tone. "The truth is right in front of us. You know more than you're letting on." The tension in the room grew palpable, and Rachel shifted her weight as if contemplating her next words. Just as Susan began to feel the air grow thick with impending revelation, Rachel's phone buzzed on the countertop. The sound cut through the charged silence, jolting them back to the present. Rachel glanced at her phone, her expression shifting yet again. The color drained from her face, and in that moment it became clear that whatever was on the other end held weight, significance. Susan seized the opportunity, her eyes locking onto Rachel's. "Who is it?" Susan pressed, sensing that something crucial was unfolding. Rachel hesitated, her fingers twitching nervously over the screen. It's nothing," she lied, but the quiver in her voice suggested otherwise. "Rachel," Jason said firmly, "this could be about Emily. You have to tell us." For a fleeting moment, Rachel's facade wavered, and Susan could see the internal battle raging within her. The truth hung between them, tantalizingly close, yet maddeningly out of reach. But just then, Rachel's expression hardened. "I can't," she finally said, her voice colder than before. "I have to go." Without another word, she turned and rushed to the door, leaving Susan and Jason stunned in her wake. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving an echo of unanswered questions hanging in the air. In that moment of isolation, Susan felt the weight of the investigation pressing down on her. They had come so close, yet the distance felt insurmountable. The dance video had opened a door, but now it seemed that Rachel had retreated behind a wall of secrets once more. As the reality of their situation sank in, Susan's determination solidified. They would not give up. There had to be a way to uncover the truth. With the new clue still fresh in their minds, Susan and Jason resolved to dig deeper. They knew that unraveling Rachel's connection to Emily would be key, and the mystery of that phone call lingered like a shadow, begging for illumination. Little did they know, the answers they sought were closer than they imagined, waiting to be uncovered in the dark corners of the past, intertwined with truths that would shake the foundation of everything they thought they knew. With a renewed sense of purpose, Susan and Jason returned to the dance studio where Emily had practiced. The atmosphere felt charged with potential, every corner whispering secrets waiting to be unearthed. Susan recalled Rachel's face, the fleeting glimpse of fear that had crossed her features. What was she hiding? They pored over social media posts from the time of Emily's disappearance, searching for any clue that might reveal a connection between Rachel and the events of that fateful day. As they sifted through videos, Susan's heart raced. Each frame captured the innocent laughter of children, the carefree joy that had been stolen from them. Then, in a moment that felt almost serendipitous, Jason paused the video on a still shot of a group performance. In the back, partially obscured by other dancers, was a girl who bore a striking resemblance to Rachel. "Susan, look at this," Jason said, pointing at the screen. Could that be her? The image sparked a flurry of questions. Had Rachel been involved in Emily's life more than they had previously thought? As they dug deeper, they uncovered a thread that connected Rachel's dance group to Emily's social circle. It was a delicate web of friendships and alliances that stretched back years, yet remained largely overlooked by investigators. Days turned into nights as they chased leads and pieced together a timeline. Susan reached out to former classmates, trying to gather information about Rachel's connections during that time. Each conversation opened new doors, but also deepened the shadows of doubt. They heard whispers of a secret party the night before Emily's disappearance, where students had gathered to celebrate the end of the school year. Rachel was mentioned more than once as someone who had been seen there, laughing, dancing, seemingly part of the group. Yet the more they learned, the more the trail felt obscured. There were rumors of jealousy, of rivalries that could have ignited into something far darker. But how could a celebration turn into a tragedy? Susan felt the pressure mounting, the burden of her investigation weighing heavily on her. Her heart thudded with each new piece of information, every potential lead feeling like a double-edged sword. They were moving closer, but with each step, the risk grew. As their findings began to hint at hidden relationships and untold stories, the authorities remained dismissive. Years of cold case policies had left them jaded, unwilling to entertain the idea that new information could potentially reshape the narrative of Emily's disappearance. Susan and Jason stood at a crossroads, facing the ghosts of the past with sheer determination. However, just as they began to formulate a plan to confront Rachel again, a chilling twist emerged. An anonymous tip arrived in Susan's inbox, suggesting a new angle that had never been explored. An old acquaintance of Rachel's who had recently resurfaced. This person, the tipster claimed, held vital information that could change everything. With the shadows of doubt creeping closer, Susan and Jason prepared to follow this unexpected lead. The stakes were higher than ever. Who was this person, and what secrets did they hold? As their journey edged towards its climax, the truth loomed just out of reach, tantalizingly close, yet shrouded in darkness. They were on the brink of revelation, but would it shatter their understanding of what had really happened to Emily? The answers would soon be laid bare, but at what cost? Fueled by a mixture of hope and apprehension, Susan and Jason dove deeper into their investigation. They traced the tip back to a small town not far from where Emily had vanished. The name of the acquaintance, a man named Todd, echoed in their minds, raising questions and concerns. Who was he, and how did he fit into the puzzle of Emily's disappearance? Upon arriving in the town, The atmosphere shifted. The air felt thick with unspoken words and hidden truths. Susan and Jason knocked on Todd's door, their hearts racing with anticipation. The unease of the unknown hung heavily in the air as they waited for a response. Finally, the door creaked open, revealing a man whose weary eyes betrayed a life marked by struggles and secrets. As they introduced themselves, Todd's demeanor changed. Initially guarded, he seemed to hesitate before finally inviting them in. The small, cluttered living room reeked of years of neglect, and Susan couldn't shake the feeling that they had stepped into a life overshadowed by fear. After exchanging pleasantries, Susan carefully broached the subject of Emily. Todd's expression shifted, flickering between surprise and dread. He claimed he had distanced himself from Rachel and her circle after a fallout, but as the conversation unfolded, it became clear that he possessed knowledge he was reluctant to share. Every question Susan posed sent him deeper into a web of avoidance, prompting Jason to press harder, urging Todd to reconsider. As tension mounted, Todd finally revealed fragments of a chilling story. He spoke of late-night gatherings, whispers of secrets exchanged, and a troubling incident involving Rachel that had frightened him into silence. But just as he began to open up, he abruptly cut himself off, his eyes darting to the window as if sensing unseen eyes watching them. The moment felt electric, a shift in the atmosphere that left Susan and Jason on edge. Before they could press further, Todd became agitated and abruptly excused himself, citing a pressing matter. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving Susan and Jason bewildered in a cloud of uncertainty. They left Todd's home with more questions than answers, but the chilling implication of what he had hinted at hung heavily in the air. What had he known that had caused him to retreat into silence? And more importantly, what role had Rachel played in this twisted narrative? The urgency to uncover the truth drove them to the local library, where they scoured through old newspapers and archives, desperate to piece together the fragmented clues. Their search revealed incidents of strange behavior and unreported sightings in the days leading up to Emily's disappearance, which all tied back to Rachel. As they delved deeper, Susan received a startling notification on her phone. It was a new video uploaded online, tagged with Emily's name. Heart-pounding, she clicked the link, and what unfolded sent chills down her spine. The video featured a group of young dancers, but in the background, a familiar figure emerged. It was Rachel, laughing and dancing with a group of friends, oblivious to the darkness that had consumed Susan's life for the past several years. The video was dated just weeks after Emily had gone missing. Susan's breath hitched as she replayed the moment, her mind racing. Rachel had seemingly moved on, while Susan remained trapped in a nightmare. As they prepared to confront Rachel once again, the haunting realization struck them that Rachel might hold the key to unlocking the truth behind Emily's fate. But would she be willing to share it, or would they once again be met with silence? The next steps would determine whether Susan and Jason would finally grasp the answers they so desperately sought, or whether the shadows of the past would consume them entirely. As Susan and Jason approached Rachel, the weight of years filled the air. It was time to confront the woman who had become the center of their investigation. The shadows of doubt loomed large, but they were determined to pull back the curtain on the mystery that had haunted them for so long. "Rachel," Susan began, her voice steady but laced with emotion, "we need to talk about Emily. We know you were with her in the days leading up to her disappearance." Rachel's demeanor shifted, a flicker of recognition passing through her eyes. The laughter that had once danced across her face faded, replaced by a defensive posture. "I don't know what you're talking about," she insisted, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. As they pressed her, Rachel's facade began to crumble. The truth spilled out in fragmented confessions, secrets of a hidden life, friendships that turned toxic, and a desperate night that spiraled into chaos. She had not meant for things to end the way they did, but fear had silenced her for too long. With Rachel's admission, the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Emily had gotten caught in a web of betrayal, entangled in a world she never fully understood. Rachel, once a friend, had become an unwilling participant in a tragic turn of events, one that led to Emily's untimely fate. The confrontation did not bring the relief Susan had imagined. The truth was a bitter pill to swallow, a loss compounded by the betrayal of someone who should have protected Emily. Yet it was a truth nonetheless, and Susan now had the strength to reclaim her narrative. In the aftermath, Susan took her findings to law enforcement. With the new evidence and Rachel's testimony, authorities reopened the investigation, leading to charges against those who had wronged Emily. It was not a complete victory. The scars remained, and the ache of loss would never fully fade. But Susan had fought for her daughter's memory, and in doing so, she found a form of justice. As the case reached its resolution, Susan reflected on the journey they had endured. The search for truth had been relentless, a testament to a mother's love that refused to be extinguished. It was a painful reminder that justice often comes at a cost, yet it is a cost worth paying when it brings light to darkness. In the quiet moments, she held on to the hope that Emily would always be remembered, not just as a victim, but as a vibrant young woman whose spirit would inspire others to seek the truth, even when it is buried deep beneath the weight of betrayal. As this chapter closes, we are left with a poignant reminder. The pursuit of truth is not just about resolution, it is about honoring those we have lost and ensuring their stories are never forgotten. In the end, will we be brave enough to face the shadows lurking in our past?